March is a really big month. It brings the first eclipse of 2024, an exalted Venus, new moon in Pisces, and Mercury entering Aries, the sign it will later retrograde in. All 10 planets are still moving direct, making it a really good month to take action. The lunar eclipse, however, later in the month will bring some important realizations, encourage relationship transformations, and suggest eclipsing some connections out of our lives. Let's take a closer look and break the most important transits for all 12 signs. My name is Anastasia. I'm a traditional Western astrologer specializing in natal, relationship, and predictive readings. If you enjoy my content and would like to support me, you can do so by leaving a like or a comment, subscribing, and pressing that notification bell. All of that encourages YouTube algorithm to show my content to more people, helps me grow. You also have the option of saying thank you by buying me a coffee or a tea, whatever you feel like. Someone recently has purchased the Kuzmi tea called Anastasia for me, which I thought was very smart and cute. And I actually like Kuzmi tea a lot. It has origin in Russia. I think the guy's name was Kuzmichov. But currently it is a French company and it's quite good. Let me know if you have their tea, if you've ever tried it. Before we dive in, a couple of announcements. You can work with me by booking a reading on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com. Now is a great time because it's the eclipse season. So if you want to know how your chart is getting activated, what's coming up for you, we're going to get 2 eclipses. There is a lunar eclipse in Libra on the 25th of March, and then there is a solar eclipse in Aries in early April. So check out my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com. You can also get a horoscope subscription there if you'd like a personal touch and you'd like to know what kind of is ahead for you without booking a reading. On my website in the shop section, you can also find some of my products. For example, my 2024 planner, it's not too late. This is currently discounted. You can find the discount code in the description. 225 pages filled with astrological insights, journaling prompts, astrology guides, lunar phases, anything you need to maximize your year, to avoid some of the downsides. Astrology can be kind of like a weather app, right? Like helping you know when it's raining, helping you avoid relationship challenges, because if you are aware, you're better prepared. Additionally, since the eclipse season tends to be very electric, very emotional, very transformative, I would highly recommend checking my candle selection. The newest addition to my candle shop is the Moon in Cancer 2. I have created Moon in Cancer candles last year and they were a huge success. The candles are sold out. So this year at the day, the hour, and the night of the moon, when the moon was waxing in the sign of rulership Cancer, I created more candles. And this year, I think they're even more potent because of Pluto leaving Capricorn. Because whenever Pluto was in Capricorn, there was some kind of influence because Cancer and Capricorn are opposite one another, so they would have impacted one another. But now Pluto is in Aquarius and the moon in Cancer is free to do its own thing. So this candle is perfect for relaxing. It's perfect for manifesting. You can light it alone or you can light it in combination with any other candle. It can be very wonderful for like reducing stress, anxiety, helping with sleep, helping with fertility, if those are the things you are looking for to get, right? And it's especially perfect for anyone with their moon in Capricorn or the moon in Scorpio, the signs of fall and detriment of the moon. And if your moon is placed in one of the dark houses, 6th, 8th, or 12th, if it's making hard aspects to Saturn, Pluto, Uranus, or even Neptune. So thank you for listening to that. Like I said, check out my website for all the offerings, for all the goodies, the goodies that I offer. So let's talk about March, right? In general, what is happening in March? We're coming into March after having a whole lot of action in Aquarius. The beginning of the month still has some action in Aquarius, but the Sun has moved on, Mercury has moved on, Venus and Mars are still in Aquarius. They just had their conjunction. So perhaps you've experienced some new beginnings in the Aquarius section of your chart. Pisces is very active, so is Aries from the 2nd, even like from March 9th when Mercury enters Aries. And Mercury entering Aries is actually quite a big deal. I'm going to talk about that when we go chronologically, but briefly, Mercury will retrograde in Aries, so the themes that are brought up early in the month or even in March in general will be coming up into your life again in April when Mercury is retrograde. And of course, the biggest event of the month is the lunar eclipse in Libra. So let's take a look chronologically and give you some insights before we take some of the most important transits and break them down for all 12 signs. So the month begins with the Sun in Pisces sextiling Jupiter in Taurus. This is beautiful for feeling optimistic. This is beautiful for good luck, for growth and expansion. The Sun is your ego, your consciousness, your desires. Jupiter helps you benefit through socializing, through education, through travel, through networking. So I think here, March 1st is a great time to take action towards reaching your dreams, because while the Sun in Pisces is a dreamer, Jupiter in Taurus is quite practical and can offer solutions, suggestions, and encourage you to take a slow and steady approach to making your dreams come true. On the 3rd of March, Venus will square Uranus. So we have this interesting sort of dynamic this month where some planets are making harmonious aspects to Uranus while the others are making squares to Uranus, specifically Venus and Mars. So on the 3rd and the 9th of the month, we have some squares to Uranus. So to me, this suggests an element of inner tension. So on the 3rd, Venus, the planet of love and desire, will be squaring Uranus, which could be a sign that something in your relationship, something in your partnership, something in your social life, or even in your creative exploration, creative pursuits is outdated. There might be some surprises represented by the square to Uranus that have a disruptive effect, but they are meant to illuminate what requires change. They're meant to show you how to adapt, how to adjust. So March 3rd can be frustrating, especially if you are by nature someone who likes to be set in their routines, doesn't appreciate change. But the more you're able to stay flexible, the more you're able to stay adaptable, the better and easier this will go. This could be anything from winning a sum of money and that changing your life to a more complicated transit where your partner tells you a secret of some sorts, or you discover that they spent a bunch of money and now you need to adapt and figure out how to address your finances differently. Relationships that you start at this time will be anything but boring. They will be exciting, unique, and potentially unstable. On the 4th of March, Mercury will sextile Uranus. This is beautiful because here you get a chance to think differently, a chance to maybe come up with unique solutions. Your thoughts are fun. There's maybe exciting, stimulating encounters. It's a great time, I think, to submit any proposals, any ideas that are a little bit out there or that are a little bit futuristic, a little bit different. So still, like we have this really nice connection between the Pisces sector of your chart and Taurus sector of your chart, but a little bit more complicated between the Aquarius and Taurus. On the 8th of March, International Women's Day, Mercury conjoins Neptune. And this is beautiful for meditation, for going to spiritual retreats, for looking into creative work, for painting, writing, anything like that, but a little bit less. The thinking could be a bit foggy. There is more of a chance to get pulled into the Neptunian waters. So try to stay a little bit grounded. Make sure to double check all the details if you're going places, if you're making schedules, and lean strongly into creativity and spirituality. On the 9th of March, we have Mars squaring Uranus at the same time as the Sun sextiles Uranus. So Mars in a square to Uranus gives you a lot of restless energy. And I think there's that pull to act, to rush, to speed up, to explore, to experiment. I do like that the Sun is sextiling Uranus at the same time, so similar kind of energy, but a little bit more harmonious. With the Sun sextile to Uranus, you are pulled to express the more unique side of yourself, also kind of interested in experimenting, very curious, very kind of interested in improving your life. The Mars square to Uranus can suggest that you push yourself too hard and end up stumbling and falling. There could be some kind of accidents, or I would not recommend like experimenting with something you're unfamiliar with, like lifting really heavy weights or playing with electrical currents or anything like that. So try to harness this energy in maybe brainstorming session, or doing a new exercise, or experimenting in the bedroom, doing something that is like more familiar to you and safer, right? Do not necessarily go driving extra fast or jumping, like don't go skydiving around this time. Wait a little bit. Just be patient, be slow and steady, and you can avoid the more frustrating side of this transit. Mercury enters Aries on the 9th of March. We'll stay here until May 15th. So whenever we get a really long transit of Mercury through a sign, that is suggesting that there is a retrograde coming up. And indeed, we have the retrograde for most of April. It starts on April 1st, lasts until April 25th. And the shadow period begins on March 18th, actually. So Aries, Mercury in Aries in general is very direct. It's very innovative. This could be suggestive that your thoughts are going towards new projects. You're more interested in starting something. You're more excited by starting things, maybe not so good at follow through or sticking to it, right? It's more interesting to go on and try something else. You're very honest. You're very competitive, combative. The retrograde coming up is, of course, suggestive that the projects and the documents and any sort of submission of documents, technical work, intellectual projects, writing that is done on or after March 18th and until April 1st may need to be redone during the retrograde between April 1st and April 25th. On the 10th of March, we get a new moon at 20 degrees 16 minutes Pisces, especially important if you have placements between 17 and 23 degrees of the mutable signs, Pisces, Virgo, Gemini, and Sagittarius. The new moon in Pisces is conjoining Neptune and Saturn, but it's also sextiling Uranus, which is quite fun, I think. The conjunction to Neptune and to Saturn, I think it's separating from Saturn going towards Neptune, so there's an element of being realistic about things, being aware of what needs to be sacrificed, what needs to be worked on, but still following your dreams because we're moving towards Neptune, making dreams real, committing, right? The sextile to Uranus and Taurus could suggest resources, opportunities, connections that can help you get to where you're trying to go. There's like fresh perspectives, resources. And the ruler of this new moon is also Jupiter in Taurus. So the things that you have been working on in the Taurus section of your chart are getting highlighted, and perhaps there's new opportunities there, but very much making dreams come true type energy. On the same day, we also have Mercury sextiling Pluto, so your intuition is powerful. It's a great time to study, great time to do research, great time to manifest by journaling or writing things down and sort of getting focused. On March 11th, Venus enters Pisces. This is an exalted Venus. She stays here until April 5th, a little bit less than a month, but it's a very ethereal, loving, romantic transit. You may experience more sensuality, more forgiveness, more love for the world, humanity, your partner, animals, a lot of things. It's very, I think it's a beautiful energy for love, but you got to be careful of being a little bit flaky, evasive, and maybe too forgiving, right? Venus and Pisces may sometimes struggle with poor boundaries and being attracted to people that need help. So just remember, it's not your job to save every single hurt puppy or hurt human. It's good to help, but don't do it at expense of your own peace of mind. On the 17th of March, the Sun conjoins Neptune. So Mercury did that on the 8th. Was it 8th or the 9th? On the 8th. So the themes from March 8th may be coming back if you have been digging into some kind of spiritual practice. The Sun conjunct Neptune can also be beautiful for that. Could be a great time for altruistic pursuits, going volunteering, doing imaginative work, creating, writing, anything like that. But as always, Neptune could create a danger of following false idols and getting deceived. So keep one foot on the ground. On the 19th of March, the sun enters Aries. Will stay here until April 19th. This is the start of spring, right? Aries is the first. Aries is the new. It's the time when we are even more brave, more direct, more experimental, independent, innovative. We sort of have this like childlike wonder and excitement for starting new things. You may experience a burst of fresh energy. The days are getting longer, right? There's like a lot of excitement and a great time to start new things. Of course, we're getting closer and closer to the eclipse. And so the energy you might be feeling can also be connected to that. On the 21st of March, the sun will sextile Pluto. This is good for focused work, for, once again, being more intuitive, doing research, for making positive transformations. On the same day, Venus is conjoining Saturn. So Venus conjunct Saturn can be a bit of a downer. Could be the time when you're feeling lonely, but it's not by nature a bad transit, I wouldn't say. I think like Venus conjunct Saturn is just the time. There's a suggestion there that there is something in your life that you are working on. There is something in your life that needs to be looked at rationally, right? Like I said, Venus and Pisces can over-idealize. It can be a dreamer. It can be very romantic. So Venus conjunct Saturn is suggesting that you are getting more real. You are maybe having honest conversations in relationships. You're maybe choosing to part ways if this is better for your relationship. So it's, you know, it could be a bit of like difficult, serious time in relationship. Doesn't have to be bad, but just a time when you are taking rose-colored glasses off and recommitting, reevaluating. It's a great time for mastering a skill, for working solo, and for committing, right? Commitment a lot of times requires a dose of Saturn, requires you to say no to something. So it's not a bad transit, it's just a serious transit. On the 22nd of March, Mars enters Pisces. So now we have Venus, Mars, the Sun, and the Saturn in Pisces at this point, right? So, oh wait, no, sorry, the Sun is in Aries. But Venus, Mars, and Saturn. So Mars joins Venus, stays here from March 22nd until April 30th. Mars in Pisces is more emotionally driven. It's less interested in like material achievement. Of course, you still can feel interested in material achievement, but I think you will start to prioritize spiritual, creative, emotional connections. You may start to go after your goals not in like a very straightforward fashion. There might be a bit of like indirect approach, and a lot of your actions and energy levels will be emotionally driven. So based on how you slept that day, what kind of dreams you had, how you feel, whether you feel loved or not, that will color your actions. On the 24th of March and then the 28th of March, Venus is making some lovely aspects to planets in Taurus. On the 24th, she's sextiling Jupiter. On the 28th, she's sextiling Uranus. And this is beautiful for creative work, for socializing, for even traveling, going on journeys and adventures, exploring new ideas. Venus is exalted, Jupiter and Uranus are both ruled by her. So the projects you're working on have this like benevolent support of the planet of good luck. Of course, on March 25th, we are getting a lunar eclipse at 5 degrees, 7 minutes of Libra. And this is a south node eclipse. Eclipses represent big points of change. They are the times when karmic things are coming into your life and karmic things are getting eclipsed out of your life. This is a lunar eclipse. So lunar eclipses are like full moons, except on steroids. They represent change, release, transformation, letting things go. So here you're completing a cycle that started in mid-October when we had a solar eclipse in Libra. It's very much a relationship-oriented eclipse. Venus is in Pisces. She's exalted, so that's supportive, I think. but there's still a need to release outdated beliefs, to release sort of shallow relationship patterns, and to focus on growing, connecting, and sort of building healthier, more balanced, more equal and fair relationships. And you may be required to forgive someone or something. You may be required to commit to something because Venus has conjoined Saturn not that long ago. So kind of very realistic approach, very realistic attitudes, and need to release something and need to focus on stability, growth, but also be grounded and honest with yourself and with other people. And I'll do more videos, of course, to talk about the eclipse and talk about a lot of these big events. But for now, before we start talking about each sign, if you'd like to know what's ahead for you personally, you can visit my website, anastasia.astrology.com, and purchase a subscription. A horoscope subscription will give you access to weekly emails with guides, as well as the monthly horoscope that is tailored and personalized specifically to your chart. Could be a great addition to your astrological practice, helping you know what is happening in the skies. So let's take a look at the 12 signs. If you are not sure which sign to listen to, I recommend rising sign, because rising sign represents the starting point of your chart, and from there onwards it's easier to determine which houses the transits fall in versus your sun or moon can be in any house. But it's totally up to you what to listen to, because if you resonate more with your sun or your moon, definitely listen for that. So if you are an Aries rising, in February there was a lot of focus on your career, on your social and life and networks, and maybe your dreams and your role in the collective as you ask some deep questions. And later in the month, when the sun entered Pisces, you may have started to feel like you need to step back a little bit and find a better balance between your social life and your spiritual life. You may have realized that you need to nurture your inner self. In March, there's still some focus, especially the first 3 weeks, there's still focus on your social life as you are maybe networking, maybe connecting with people, maybe you're exercising together because Mars is here until March 22nd. You're sort of feeling more driven, I think, to connect, to partner up, to be a leader, to tell other people what to do, and also to explore projects, ideas, and dreams that put you together with other people and help you do, like, I think you're looking at this time for connections that are not just, you know, kind of shallow and connected with you based on interest, but you're also looking for connections that can inspire the collective, that can help the world. Like, you're maybe more interested in volunteering, in speaking about big issues on social media. You're just feeling more driven. March 3rd and March 9th can bring a little bit of shakeup potentially in friendships, as Venus and Mars square Uranus in your second house. Friendships or your goals, as you look at the resources and the finances you have available. The square to Uranus can either suggest a big spending. Maybe you figure out there is a big tax bill that you need to pay and you cannot temporarily hang out with your friends because you need to figure out your financial situation. Or maybe there's a positive breakthrough in the house of money and values where you find a new interest or you find a new resource, you get a payment you've been waiting for, and then you are discovering these new connections, new dreams, new passions, and even starting a social media page, or like I said, starting to volunteer, starting some kind of organization that helps other people, maybe a podcast where you talk about intuition and harnessing it. There is a lot of action in your 12th house all months. We have Saturn here, the Sun until March 19th, Mercury until March 9th, Venus and Mars most of the month, Venus from March 11th and Mars from March 22nd. So this is like a bit more introspective energy, right? I think you're early in the month, maybe you're more social, and then from about March 11th, you're more pulled to spend time in solitude, or maybe you're spending time with people you love, but you're just kind of interested in escaping, in resting, in listening to music, exploring your imagination, diving into spirituality. There's a new moon here on March 10th, and this new moon is making a harmonious aspect to Jupiter in your second house. So it's interesting because the new moon in the 12th house could suggest some kind of healing, some type of resolution of an old situation. You know, maybe you've had like an enemy, and that is of course really dramatic, but 12th house represents hidden enemies. So the new moon in the house of hidden enemies with an aspect to Jupiter in the second house could be like completion of that, right? Some kind of a win on your part. It could be the time when you're getting resources you need to start a spiritual practice. It could be the time when you are feeling more valued, you're sort of definitely venturing on some kind of path of healing, or being a healer, or even doing work with the 12th house, doing work that is more restful, doing work that is more relaxing, right? I think your priorities are changing with Jupiter being in the second house. You're starting to value things with Pluto in the 11th and community, right? With Jupiter in your second house and the new moon in the 12th, like you're starting to value different things. And as you change, this is your opportunity either to take action to find a more restful occupation, or to bring more spiritual action into your life and sort of, you know, build up a different side of yourself. From about March 9th, we start to have more action in your first house. Mercury enters your first house on March 9th, stays all the way until mid-May. The sun goes here on the 19th. And so initially, I think like between March 9th and March 19th, you just start to feel like you want to talk about yourself more. You want to express your ideas. You have done a little bit of thinking, and now you're ready to share what you have been thinking about. And the sun can bring you more energy. It can bring you more enthusiasm, more excitement. The spring is coming. You're feeling sort of the new beginnings of spring, sort of enthusiasm growing in you. Mercury will be here for a while, and Mercury will go retrograde in April. So this is also very much suggestive of, and then we're going to get a solar eclipse in your first house. So you are rethinking who you are. You're making changes to your look. You're making changes to your style. You're changing the answer to the question of who are you. If you answer it by, I'm an engineer, I'm a flight attendant, it is very likely that in the next year or so, the answer to that question will change, right? Because we're getting one eclipse in April, and then there's one more eclipse in your first house in 2025 before we bid adieu to the Aries Libra eclipses. But you are rethinking how you present yourself. You are rethinking your resume. You are rethinking your style. You are rethinking your approach to life. And so Mercury going retrograde will be very much about that. I also like that there is still a really nice connection between Mercury, the Sun, and Pluto in your 11th house. So still kind of energy of working with the community, doing work that's more important, doing work that is politically or socially relevant. So you are kind of, your identity gets really tied to your desire to be a leader, to be a social worker, or to be somehow like impactful for even if it's your small community, right? Like even if you're trying to change things at your university, or kind of uplift maybe local homeless shelters or something, it's still potent and important. And of course, on March 25th, we get a lunar eclipse in Libra in your 7th house, which brings attention to your relationships and suggests some kind of change and culmination there. It is ruled by Venus in your 12th house. So for some of you, it could be an end of a big chapter where you're separating. And that's only in case that you already know that relationship is not going well. I don't think you're going to experience like a sudden separation if everything is great. So don't get scared. I actually know an Aries rising who just recently got engaged. So for her, I can see that as also getting engaged. Maybe to someone foreign, maybe to someone spiritual, because the ruler is Venus in the 12th house. But important business, romantic, contract-related transformation, completing some kind of chapter. And take a look back at October 14th, when we had a solar eclipse in Libra. what kind of relationship developments were happening. Were you just starting to date someone? Were you considering signing a contract? What was going on in your one-on-one partnerships? And if you'd like to know what Eclipse has in store for you and you have questions, do not hesitate to visit my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com, and book your consultation. You can also pick up a personal horoscope subscription to get detailed insights emailed to you at the start of every month. Now, if you are a Taurus rising, in February there was a lot of focus on your house of education, travel, writing, publishing. You may have explored new ideas, new beliefs, new philosophical systems as Venus and Mars transited Capricorn. Also worked pretty hard, most likely, because there was a lot of action in Aquarius. Maybe you've reconsidered things. Maybe you faced some shadows at work, made realizations about your bosses, and also kind of realizations about what you want in life. And later in the month, you could have started to feel more social, maybe experience more opportunities to present ideas, to lead, to speak in public, and be kind of more connected with your friends as the Sun and Mercury entered Pisces, your 11th house. So in March, the first 3 weeks or so, you're still quite busy professionally. Venus is in your 10th house until March 11th. Mars is here until March 22nd. So until March 11th, your relationship with your bosses is extra good. You might be doing work that you enjoy. Maybe there's more creative opportunities. After, between 11th and 22nd, it could be the time to actually press on the gas pedal and work really, really hard. But there's potentially, more opportunities to be kind of like a leader, independent, masculine achiever in your career, start a business, start new projects, tell people what to do. Around March 3rd and March 9th, Venus and Mars in your 10th house square Uranus in the 1st, which is interesting. There could be some changes and a need to adapt professionally because of the breakthroughs that are happening with your health, with your personal goals, with your desires, your energy levels. So, an example would be finding out you're pregnant, or realizing that your work life is not aligned with your desires and sort of deciding to quit your job or needing to adjust because of the changing situation in your personal life. There's a lot of action all months in Pisces in your 11th house. We have the Sun here, Saturn, Mercury, Venus, and Mars, all at different parts of the month. So the entire month, there's a lot of action here. There's also a new moon in Pisces on March 10th. And this is all about your friendships, about your social network and your social connections, and your potentially role in the community, right? Saturn is here, so Saturn is bringing a lot of attention to questions of belonging, to questions of connection, to questions of legacy. And I think people that stand in your corner, people that have your back, as well as your role as the guide, as the leader, as sort of a teacher or mentor for some people. So the new moon here, it's making harmonious aspect to Jupiter in your, just a second, I lost my place on the document. So the new moon in the 11th house is making harmonious aspect to Jupiter in your 1st house. So here we're looking at Jupiter is still, since last May, Jupiter has been in your 1st house and it's getting closer and closer to Uranus. So you are in this place of reinventing yourself and very much becoming a teacher, becoming a guide, even if it's on small level where you're just guiding some colleagues, right? But you are transforming yourself, and with the new moon in the 11th, I think you're asking who's in your corner, who is your ally, how can you build a network around yourself, right? And it might involve starting a blog, it might involve starting a social media page, it might involve you going to a networking event. So kind of exciting new possibilities, I think, in terms of your dreams, in terms of your connections that are influenced by this change that you're experiencing. Maybe even starting a project with a friend, right? Or being more known on social media, presenting your work on social media. There's also focus on your 12th house. So between March 9th and May 15th, Mercury will be here, and Mercury going into your 9th house, 12th house, and then getting ready to go retrograde is suggestive of you needing to take a look at your blind spot. And potentially, you know, there might be some kind of like, Aries is the sign of being really direct and being sort of very even like forceful sometimes, being kind of blunt. So you may be examining your self-defeating tendencies that have to do with speaking your mind without thinking, or maybe kind of, yeah, like acting too rashly, or like any self-defeating tendencies, any bad habits. The sun will be here from March 19th until April 19th, and you are, on some level, you really crave like solitude and alone time and maybe a spiritual practice. So perhaps even your search for communities connected with your changing values and your changing interests. But there is a need with 12th house activation, there's a need to recharge. There is a need to tend to your mental health, because there is, even having Uranus in your first house, it's quite like maybe electric, maybe there's a lot of changes, maybe your life hasn't felt very stable lately. So I think the Aries action is an invitation to slow down. It's an invitation to recharge, maybe to get away, to go traveling with a person, with your partner. It's an invitation to do work in solitude, because Aries, Mercury, and the sun will be aspecting Pluto in your 10th house. So like a need to do work in private, or a need to start doing work that is more healing, that is more imaginative, that is more creative, even if you do that just for fun, for pleasure, is quite highlighted at this time. And last but not least, there's a lunar eclipse in Libra, your 6th house, on March 25th, and it brings attention to your house of health, work, and service. And so this is quite interesting, right? Because there's a lot of focus on privacy, retreating, mental health, like kind of healing. But the eclipse is suggesting that you also need to look at your physical health and your routines and habits. And, you know, do you go to bed on time? Do you eat well, or do you eat junk food? Like, what needs to be improved? What needs to be kind of transformed and harnessed? Which energy needs to be more dominant in your life? So this eclipse brings completion of a chapter that was started with the solar eclipse in Libra on October 14th, 2023. So take a look back, see what was happening in your health, see what was happening in your everyday work, in your kind of general life. Have you been making changes? Have you been realizing that you need to take better care of yourself, sleep better? Has there been even a sense of like professional transformation, I wonder? Because maybe this eclipse could also be suggestive that you're needing to rethink how you deal with your colleagues, what things you say yes to versus things you say no to, how your desire to be sort of liked by everyone is maybe not serving you, and how can you release a job, a connection, a habit that doesn't serve you, so that your life feels better. And if you'd like to know what eclipse means for you specifically, what kind of chapters are activated in your life, what the next eclipse in Aries will bring you, book a reading with me at anastasiadoesastrology.com. You can also find a horoscope subscription on my website, which lets you get monthly horoscopes emailed to you at the start of every month, so you can get personal guidance and advice on maximizing the opportunities and avoiding the downsides. If you are a beautiful Gemini rising in February, you could have done a lot of financial work. Maybe you've been selling things, maybe you've been negotiating, paying off debts, talking about financial consultant as Venus and Mars traveled through Capricorn, your 8th house. You could have explored new philosophies, taken some classes, went on some adventures, or dealt with legal matters with all the planets in Aquarius, as well as you could have experienced some kind of ideological shift, or had a lot of conversations about beliefs, philosophies, and sort of ideologies in your life. Later in the month, there could have been more focus on your career as the sun entered Pisces, perhaps offering opportunities to make changes, to make improvements, to become more visible, and to lead. In March, There is still a decent amount of focus, especially the first 3 weeks, on your 9th house of education, travel, publishing, and writing. Maybe you are studying, maybe you're just getting really interested in something and you're doing a lot of research. You're maybe traveling or planning trips. You're maybe dealing with some kind of legal matters. Around March 3rd and March 9th, there might actually be some breakthroughs related to education, travel, legal matters. Like if you've been waiting for something, for some kind of visa to come through, this could be the time when it does. It could also be the time, to be honest, with the square to Uranus in the 12th house, when you kind of make an important realization of a spiritual kind. You may be realizing that some of your goals are no longer interesting to you. Maybe you discover a new passion and release an old passion. There could also be like a desire to pursue and learn more things that have kind of unique meaning to you. And I think like, you know, this energy between March 1st and March 22nd, when Mars leaves your 9th house, could be very eye-opening on some levels. It could bring like a lot of ideological shift, a lot of also philosophical and deep conversations that perhaps direct you into a brand new way. A lot of changes potentially can also be happening around your living situation, around where you see yourself, what you see yourself doing, what you see yourself studying, how much you want to teach other people, influence, educate other people are all of the questions you might be answering at this time. Your 10th house of Pisces is pretty active. Saturn is here. The Sun, Mercury, Venus, and Mars all pass through your 10th house throughout the years, throughout the month. So also there's a new moon here on March 10th. So there's a lot of new beginnings in your house of career, status, and reputation. So if you're looking for a new job, this is the time you might get that new job. There might be changes to your office dynamics, right? Maybe your office is moving or you're getting a new boss. You are potentially becoming more active, right? Venus enters your 10th house on March 11th. And you can experience your relationships with bosses are getting better. You're taking on projects that are more creative, that are more enjoyable as well. If you're not, just ask your bosses for something like that. It could be also a great time, I think, to reach out to your connections, to ask for some help with your career. Mars comes into your 10th house on the 22nd of March. And you are even more kind of entrepreneurial, active, courageous, daring, willing to take risks and go after the things you desire. The new moon on the 10th is sextiling Jupiter in the 12th house. So I see this as changes, professional changes, and also even changes to your life in general that involve more spirituality, that involve more imaginative work, more healing work, and maybe even some kind of connection to foreign people or foreign land, maybe the work that takes you to foreign lands. Your 11th house gets busier from about March 9th as Mercury enters here, and the Sun enters your 11th house on March 19th. The Sun stays for a month, Mercury stays for 2 months because Mercury will be retrograding here. So Mercury and the Sun in the 11th is the time when your social life speeds up. Maybe you are speaking in front of more people. Maybe you are taking action on social media, getting ready to express your beliefs, to share your wisdom with other people. You're also kind of feeling it's Aries energy, so you're ready to start new things. You're more brave. You're more like kind of even confident in your words and your approach. Of course, Mercury will be retrograde in April. So especially from like March 18th, when Mercury goes into its shadow, until April 1st, when it stations retrograde, the work that you're doing at that time may need to be redone. So especially anything that's like connected to blogging, social media, podcasts, any kind of work with other people, group projects, all of this may need to be revisited. Maybe your social media strategy, maybe like, you know, your logo, the name of your YouTube channel, if this is something that you're doing, may need to be rethought. And also like kind of people who are in your corner, friendship adjustments may be coming around this time because Mercury and the Sun in your 11th house could also be suggestive that your friendships are speeding up and you're connecting with more people. But then the retrograde may manifest in terms of rethinking some of the relationships, or your friends can be struggling a little bit more and your dynamics are changing because you're stepping up and trying to help them. I do like that Aries Mercury and Aries Sun in the 11th will be connecting with Pluto in the 9th house. So this is beautiful for taking action and connecting with people in the realm of education, in the realm of writing, maybe like finding an agent, finding a lawyer, talking to your classmates, talking to mentors, becoming a mentor, but like very kind of supportive energy, I think, connection between your goals and your dreams and your education, or people in education, people from other countries, and teachers, mentors, lawyers, anyone who kind of has the expertise you may need. It's a great time to reach out to them. And on March 25th, we get a lunar eclipse in Libra in your 5th house of pleasure, romance, and children. This is a completion of a chapter started in mid-October 2023 when we had a solar eclipse in Libra. So it's a south node eclipse, so it has an element of spirituality. It's calling you to cleanse, to release, to transform something in your life that feels outdated. And here you're very much looking at your relationships, you're looking at pleasure and things that maybe used to bring you pleasure no longer feel so. You know, Libra 5th house could suggest that maybe you have some tastes that are based on the glittery and the beautiful and the sort of like, I don't know, maybe you like things that are like a little bit expensive or a little bit shiny on some level, which is nothing wrong with that. I like those things too. But perhaps with the lunar eclipse here, you are realizing that some of those things no longer serve you. Things in relationships may be changing, right? If you are in a romantic relationship, you may be realizing that you are in need of some kind of spiritual hobby, you're in need of a spiritual connection. Maybe you're transforming together with your partner. The life of your child can be changing too, like your child can be going through some kind of important milestone. And the relationship to pleasure, right? Like things, like I said, things that used to bring you joy maybe no longer do. And there is also an invitation to examine where are you being too excessive with pleasure? Where do you have some habits that are not helpful or not healthy? And if you'd like to know what eclipse season is about to bring you, how it's about to change your life, book a reading with me at anastasiadoesastrology.com. On my website, you can also pick up a horoscope subscription to receive monthly horoscopes emailed to you at the start of every month, where I guide you, give advice, and suggest ways of maximizing the good transits and avoiding the more difficult ones. Next, we have a lovely Cancer rising. In February, there was a lot of action in your house of romance, business, and partnerships. Maybe you were negotiating some deals, going on more dates as Mars and Venus traveled through Capricorn, your 7th house. You could have done some kind of financial reflection as you realized where in your life things are out of balance, where in your life you have debts and some kind of dependencies, agreements with other people that are not healthy. And later in the month, your beliefs could have been highlighted, whether that means you've been exploring new ideas, learning new things, going on trips, or connecting with foreign people, studying new things. That depends on each and one of you, but Pisces season definitely brought attention to the house of education, travel. Even writing and publishing or dealing with lawyers could have become more important for you. In March, there's still action in your 8th house as Venus and Mars are here until March 22nd. Venus leaves on March 11th, but chances are the realizations you've experienced in February when it comes to, clearing out your debts or renegotiating agreements, maybe having important conversations, maybe starting joint bank accounts or separating your resources from those of other people, they're still impacting you in March. And so you're continuing to negotiate, you're continuing to pay off debts, you're maybe handling taxes, right? It's tax season after all. So both taking care of financial matters, but also taking care of any kind of things that are less visible, you know, agreements with other people, social dynamics, kind of relationship agreements that are maybe less, like I said it already, but you know, like we all have these kind of expectations we place on others and that are placed on us. So I think with 8th house action, there's that need to separate from some of the ones that don't serve you anymore and maybe have run its course, right? Around March 3rd and 9th, there is a square between Venus and Mars in your 8th house and Uranus in the 11th. So you can experience a bit of a tension between the resources you have available and the finances you have available and your friendships or your hopes and dreams for the future. So Uranus in the 11th can bring some kind of breakthrough, breakdown in the friendship, or maybe unique opportunity, but then that even further highlights your awareness of needing to make changes in your life. So it could be, you know, it could be a little bit tense. It could highlight disagreements in your social network. It can highlight any sort of financial imbalances, any sort of lacks that you're dealing with. So try to be adaptable, try to be flexible. And of course, this could also be like a positive opportunity. Uranus in the 11th could be a friend that offers a solution, a friend that helps you get like a visa or pay off a debt, sort of gives you a loan that has no percentage or something like that. Your 9th house is quite busy all month. We have Saturn, the Sun, Mercury, Venus, and Mars in Pisces all at some point of the month. And there's also a new moon here on March 10th. So this is suggestive of ideological shifts. You are, like I said, maybe learning new things. Maybe you're exploring new opportunities, new kind of ideas, new places of living, right? 9th house represents travel. So travel could be on your mind. Relocating could be on your mind. Perhaps your dream needs you to move somewhere else. And so you're asking very deep questions. And we're going to have this new moon will lead in a lunar eclipse. It will culminate as a lunar eclipse in September. So in September, you may see the things that you're thinking about right now, the seeds that you're planting, bloom and come to fruition. But very much, you know, the new moon, all these planets, there's new beginnings surrounding education as you're considering new things to study, travel, writing, maybe you're exploring new ideas, and legal matters. It could also be an opportunity to get a visa or to sort of get a citizenship in a different country if you are in that position. I like that the new moon is sextiling Jupiter in your 11th house. So I think you have the support of your friends. You have kind of support of allies. You have the network, right? Jupiter in the 11th for a while has also been blessing you with bigger reach and more connections and kind of even richer connections, right? So this new beginning related to travel, education, maybe you're hosting a travel retreat, right? And your social network, your social following is in love with you so much that they're willing to join you on that retreat, right? And so you can benefit from that. So like very exciting new moon and very beautiful supportive energy coming from like friendships, from your network, from even like some kind of opportunities coming your way. Your professional life is likely to be quite busy, especially after March 9th, as Mercury enters your 10th house, stays here for 2 months. The Sun also enters on March 19th, stays for a month. And this is suggestive of more courage, more bravery, more action, more independence, more new ideas, and almost kind of like masculine, direct approach professionally. There might be more opportunities to take action. There might be more opportunities to lead, to express yourself. Of course, Mercury is going to go retrograde in April in your 10th house. So there is a need to rethink your professional life. There's a need to rethink your goals. Maybe with all the realizations connected to money and values and resources, you are now looking for a different sort of compensation, right? You're starting to think what is more appropriate, what feels more correct for the level of knowledge you have. There might also be a need to look back at the project you have done or at the job you have considered but didn't get, at the plan that you have thought about before but sort of let go of, and bring more of that into your life, sort of like revive a project. I do like that the Sun and Mercury in Aries will both be sextiling Pluto in Aquarius. So I think, this to me suggests some kind of professional action that leads to more financial freedom, that leads to bonus, to support, to even some kind of healing and a sense of liberation from outdated relationships, outdated habits, even outdated fears, I'd say. And then on March 25th, we have a lunar eclipse in Libra, your 4th house, which is a completion of a chapter started with a solar eclipse in Libra on October 14th. 4th house is all about home, family, living situation, comfort, and security. So take a look back at mid-October. What was happening? Were you starting to think about moving? Were you dealing with some kind of family situation? Were you questioning what makes you feel secure and comfortable? The lunar eclipse will likely bring back all of those topics. The ruler is Venus in the 9th house, which is interesting because there's even more indicators of relocating, traveling, maybe a need for some kind of spiritual support, spiritual, philosophical belief system that you need in your life. It can also require you to perhaps examine your beliefs around family, your beliefs around comfort and security, and like what you need and who you need in your life. So, it's a South Node eclipse. South Node eclipse always asks you to cleanse and heal and release and sort of rethink what is important to you, what you are looking for, right? And it could very much be about moving away to like live in a smaller house, but choosing a house by the beach so you feel more happy versus living in a big space somewhere where you don't know anyone or don't enjoy the surroundings. So the eclipse could bring moving, changes in the home and family, ending of a conflict, changes in the life of the family member too. If the family member has been struggling on some level, maybe they complete sort of that struggle and, get past it. And maybe you're making amends with a family member or starting sort of to change expectations you have around family and maybe see things in a more honest light. And if you'd like to know what this eclipse and the eclipse in April mean specifically for you, you can book a reading with me at anastasiadoesastrology.com. You also can pick up a horoscope subscription to receive monthly horoscopes, personalized, detailed, and specific to you, sent to you at the start of every month. I will guide you, I will offer advice, and I will be a lot more specific in those horoscopes, giving you exact dates and kind of exact pointers on what might happen in your life. Now, if you are a Leo rising in February, there was a lot of focus on your house of work and health. Maybe you went to see more doctors, maybe you just worked more. You may have experienced some kind of breakthroughs in relationships, or your partner has gone through some kind of transformations and deep realizations, as we had a stellium in Aquarius. And then later in the month, your attention could have drifted more towards paying off debts, doing your taxes, receiving inheritance, starting joint bank accounts with your partner. So as you have grown in relationships, so next sort of stop on the trip of life is the finances or agreements or sort of negotiations in relationships. So in March, there's still a little bit of focus on dating. Things are going more smoothly until March 11th. Between March 11th and March 22nd, there could be a bit more tension as Venus leaves Aquarius and Mars is still in Aquarius. But I think early in the month, you're sort of, you're feeling content with your love life. Maybe you're more open to it. Maybe you're exploring connections with your friends and sort of having good relationships, right? Maybe you are uniting together with your partner or your friends under a common flag and you are doing fun activities together, signing contracts, working on your business, sort of doing relationship stuff is likely here. Relationship stuff is the official term. On March 3rd and March 9th, There could be some kind of relationship changes connected to breakthroughs or breakdowns in career, your status and reputation. So, like the more negative situation could be quitting your job or getting fired, and your partner steps up and says, I will support you, or your partner goes through a transformation like that. The positive case scenario could be like getting proposed to, and so your relationship is changing because of this big sort of impending change in your status in life. So Venus and Mars in your 7th house will be squaring Uranus in the 10th house around March 3rd and March 9th. It could also be a little bit chaotic, I think, around then, because maybe you and your partner are realizing that you're not quite on the same page, and so you need to compromise. And if you're single, this could be your work spouse or your parent if you have a very kind of enmeshed relationship with your parent. You're still focused on paying off debts and handling financial matters, maybe negotiating agreements, maybe freeing yourself from outdated dependencies. It might, for some of you, it could be about money. For others, it could be about your boss being micromanaging you and you trying to figure out how to get them off your back or something like that, right? And that is because there's a lot of action in your 8th house. Saturn is here. The Sun, Mercury, Venus, and Mars are all in Pisces at some point of the month. There's a new moon here on March 10th, which suggests new beginnings in finances, new beginnings related to debts. Maybe you're receiving an inheritance. Maybe you're getting a bonus because this new moon is actually sextiling Jupiter in your 10th house. So a chance to separate yourself from outdated relationship, from a debt, from unhealthy situation that comes from some kind of, maybe it's a Jupiterian figure in your house of career. Maybe somebody new comes in and offers you a new job, right? Or maybe you get a bonus and now you're able to pay off your credit card, right? So positive developments, or even planting seeds towards those developments, becoming the person who takes action and who reaches out to their connections and sort of explores new paths, is likely around the time of this new moon. From March 9th, Mercury enters Aries, your 9th house, and the Sun enters Aries on March 19th. So 9th house is all about travel, education, writing, publishing, legal matters. So Mercury here can suggest that you are planning trips, you are studying, you are writing, right? You are connecting with foreign people, maybe for work. Mercury will be entering its shadow on March 18th, suggesting that the work between work, plans that you make between March 18th and April 1st may need to be redone, revisited, rethought. And Mercury will go retrograde in April for about 3 weeks. So you are also, I think, in this place of like rethinking your knowledge. Maybe you're realizing that there's an exam that you want to take. Maybe you are thinking that you want to get a driver's license, that something you've been thinking about for a while but never did. Maybe there's some exams that you need to retake, right? Or some of your beliefs that are feeling outdated, some of things that maybe you were like very passionately defending, because Aries is your 9th house, so you can be quite sort of, forceful and direct sometimes in your attitude. So some of the things you have ardently believed may need to be revisited. Some of the exams may need to be retaken, papers rewritten, and even questions of travel or moving to a foreign place may be temporarily stalled, right? If you're waiting for some kind of legal document for a visa to come through, it might be the time when that sort of slows down a little bit. At the same time, on March 10th and 21st, there are harmonious aspects from Mercury in Aries and the Sun in Aries in your 9th, and Pluto in Aquarius in the 7th. So if you have dealt with any conflicts in your relationship, maybe you're healing it because you're discovering that your beliefs are not absolute. Maybe you are going through change in a relationship that requires a move, that requires a relocation. Maybe you're starting a writing or travel partnership. So there's a lot of exciting developments, I think, in the house of philosophy, beliefs, travel, writing, publishing that are connected to your connections and your relationships. There's also a lunar eclipse in Libra, your third house, on March 25th. So this is a completion of a chapter started on October 14th, 2023, when we had a solar eclipse in Libra. And so take a look back. What was happening in your house of communication, schedule, writing, exams, siblings, community, writing on some level? So the eclipse is a sign of release. It's the sign of change. It's the sign of transformation. It's the sign of communication that is maybe more honest, because wherever we have Libra in our charts, we tend to be very diplomatic and very sort of peacemakers and trying to make sure everyone is happy. So I think this lunar eclipse in Libra in the third house on the south node is suggestive of a need to let go of the old patterns of thought, let go of the need to be liked in some situations, to maybe have honest conversations with siblings, maybe have honest conversations with neighbors and tell them how you truly feel and lean into honest communication. Anything that is going on in the life of your sibling can be important at this time. Perhaps if you had a sibling that was struggling around the time of the solar eclipse, they may now kind of complete that cycle and release their fears or release their worries and, venture on a brand new path. There might also be a change in your schedule, a change in your work route, a change in technology you use, a change in your skills and business where you are clearing space, I think, for new beginnings, because we're going to get another eclipse here in October, this time around a solar eclipse. And if you'd like to know what's ahead for you and how these eclipses, the one in March and the one in April, will impact you, book a reading with me at anastasiadoesastrology.com. You can also pick up a horoscope subscription, which means that I will email you at the start of every month with unique, personalized, and specially tailored to you horoscope, breaking down the more challenging and the more positive dates ahead. Next, beautiful Virgo rising. So in February, there was a lot of action in your houses of romance with Venus and Mars in the 5th, and then later in the month, the Sun entering Pisces. So maybe early in the month, you were having kind of like fun dates, exciting things, and later in the month, you started talking about the future, thinking about commitment, having some important realizations and important conversations with your significant other or your business partner. You could have also been exploring partnerships of other kind, maybe creative, maybe educational, maybe business. And there could have been a lot of work action, maybe some important realizations, a search for independence, an interest in something new, some kind of passion you're discovering in yourself that has to do with healing work, has to do with empowering other people, transforming lives of other people, diet, exercise, health matters. So in March, that action continues. There's still a lot of focus on your 6th house, especially until about March 22nd. Venus is here until March 11th. Mars is here until March 22nd. So you're still quite interested in improving your work routines until March 11th, especially you are enjoying better relationships with colleagues. Things maybe feel smoother, especially if in February you dealt with some kind of drama at work. Now you have more of a chance to soften things and figure things out. After March 11th until March 22nd, there may be still a little bit more tension, but I think on the positive, you can express this tense energy through exercising and eating healthy and taking some kind of action, seeing doctors or anything that needs to be done, like decluttering, making sort of positive changes to your routines, even coming up with bill payment where you don't need to be involved is quite likely here. Around March 3rd and March 9th, Venus and Mars in the 6th house will square Uranus in the 9th house, which can suggest changes in your work life due to breakdowns and breakthroughs in the sector of education, travel, writing, and legal matters. So, to give you like a negative and a positive, the negative could be your visa expiring and now you have to leave the country to figure out your visa and come back, right? The positive example would be a breakthrough in the ninth house, like getting a book deal or getting a green card, right? Or getting a visa you've been waiting for and now your work routine is changing. Maybe you're feeling more freedom. So either is a possibility. Your seventh house of relationships is active all month. The sun is here, Saturn is here, Mercury, Venus, and Mars are all here at some point, blessing your relationship sector, especially Venus when she enters here from March 11th until April 5th. You feel more forgiving, you feel more caring, more loving, more affectionate. There's also a new moon in your house of serious relationships on March 10th, and it's sextiling Jupiter in the ninth. So the new moon in the house of partnerships is new beginnings in partnerships, right? A new relationship, a new status of a relationship, a move perhaps. There is a sextile to Jupiter in the ninth house, so you may also be moving if you're dating someone foreign, maybe, or they're moving and coming to you. Or you're taking your first ever trip together, right? That's a big step in a relationship, to go to a foreign land and spend some time together. There could also be partnerships and positive developments when it comes to you being a teacher, you being a writer, or even you being a student, right? You may sort of feel like you're finding people that are supportive and aligned with you. But this could be, I can see it definitely as romantic or business oriented. Mercury enters your 8th house. It goes into Aries on March 9th and stays here until May 15th. So this is a big deal when it comes to negotiating, when it comes to dealing with debts and taxes and loans and paying off debts, dealing with inheritance matters. The sun also enters Aries on March 19th, stays for about a month, exactly a month. It leaves on April 19th. So you are kind of busy figuring out the finances. Like I said, maybe paying off debts, maybe handling bills, maybe taking care of taxes. Mercury will be retrograde in April. So between March 18th and April 1st, Mercury is in its shadow, which suggests that the work that you're doing now may need to be redone. So be extra careful. Watch out for making really rash decisions in terms of spending money. A lot of times when Mercury goes retrograde and the house is connected to money, you may discover later on that there's a bill you forgot to pay, or there is some kind of tax extra charge, or you forgot one of your 1099s while you were paying taxes. So there's a need to proceed carefully. And then, of course, in April, we'll talk more about that when we get there. As Mercury goes retrograde, you may need to rethink your agreements, your spending, your financial strategy, your kind of, who pays for what in your relationship, or even unspoken sort of non-financial agreements that feel not fair. So anything that doesn't feel fair will be expressed. And of course, Mercury is in fiery Aries, so chances of you being very direct and blunt are quite high. So beware of that. Try to sort of be careful. There is a harmonious sextile between Mercury and Aries and the Sun in Aries in your 8th house and Pluto in your 6th house. So I think whatever financial changes that are happening are meant to offer you a chance to pursue your passion projects, to find more independence professionally, and to maybe even make more money, or to get your loans forgiven, right? Because Pluto in the 6th house can be very much like you decide to do some kind of work that is serving the country, and then the US government forgives your loans. So there's a positive energy there. And there's a lunar eclipse in Libra. This is the biggest one of the month on March 25th in your 2nd house, bringing culmination, completion, and change to your house of personal finances, debts, and resources, as well as your values. And so this eclipse is a completion of a chapter started with the solar eclipse in October 2023. So take a look back and see, have you made a big purchase? Have you had any deep realizations? What was happening in your relationships, and what was happening in your relationships financially, right? The eclipse ruler is Venus in the 7th house, and there's also Saturn in your 7th house. So maybe your relationship has undergone some kind of challenges, and could be a romantic relationship, could be business relationship. So I feel like you are very much examining the dynamics connected to money, connected to values, and maybe coming up with new ways of handling things, coming up with a different approach to resources, maybe even starting to value things that weren't as important to you in the past, right? With Libra being your 2nd house, you might spend money on a lot of like shopping or beauty products and brands potentially. Of course, the rest of your chart will affect that. But I think with the lunar eclipse in Libra in your 2nd house, your values are changing, your maybe even finances are changing, you're starting to prioritize different things, you're paying off debts and letting go of outdated beliefs surrounding finances, surrounding resources. And please let me know how this resonates down below. And if you'd like to know what these eclipses have in store for you and talk to me about the upcoming eclipse in March and the one in April, you can book a reading on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com. On my website, you can also find a horoscope subscription and pick up one for yourself so that you receive written horoscopes at the start of every month, which are unique and tailored specifically to you, help you avoid the challenging dates, and encourage you to maximize the positive ones. You can also find that on my website. Next, we have beautiful Libra rising. In February, there was a lot of action, maybe a chance to improve your home, maybe some kind of renovation projects with Venus and Mars in Capricorn. You could have dated more, explored pleasure, tried new things in the bedroom. You could have also redefined what pleasure is and how you may be standing in your own way, face some fears as Venus, Mars, Mercury all conjoin Pluto in your 5th house. And later in the month, your focus could have gone to work and health. Maybe there were opportunities to declutter, make more doctor's appointments, start exercising, commit to some kind of exercise project, or commit to a different diet with the sun entering Pisces. In March, there is still, the first kind of 3 weeks, there is still focus on your house of romance, pleasure, and children. Venus is here until March 11th. She's in her joy in your 5th house. You're maybe spending more time with people you love, hanging out with kids, doing sort of pleasurable activities, which could be different for different people, right? For some, it's spending the day in bed with their significant others. For others, it might be going skydiving. So you are having more fun, you're going out, you're spending time with kids, or even connecting with your inner child. And then Venus leaves on March 11th. Mars is still here until March 22nd. So your competitive edge might show up stronger in relationships, and you may be sort of driven to be really active with your partners and your children. Around March 3rd and March 9th, Venus and Mars in your 5th house will square Uranus in the 8th, and you can potentially experience a need to be adaptable when it comes to your relationships, when it comes to parenthood and pleasure, because of some kind of breakthroughs and breakdowns related to finances. So you may find out that there is a debt you have, right? And you have to pay that, and you were planning to save money for a vacation, but now you need to postpone it, right? Or you get a big tax return and you can actually plan that vacation right now. So there is a possibility for both positive and negative, but definitely time to be more adaptable and more flexible. There's still focus on your 6th house of work, health, and service. At a different point in the month, the Sun, Mercury, Venus, and Mars are all here. Saturn is here all month. So you are working, you are eating healthier, you're making doctor's appointments. There's a new moon here on March 10th in a positive aspect to Jupiter in the 8th. So the new moon in the 6th house could be very much about better diet, about your routine, right? When Pisces is your 6th house, your daily routine may have more to do with spiritual pursuits, and you may kind of enjoy having an easier flow. So the invitation here, it could be maybe to rest a little bit more or to commit to projects that are hard, because 6th house is always hard, but rewarding, right? Because Jupiter is in the 8th house, and Jupiter in the 8th house could be blessing you with more finances, with more resources. And please let me know if that's the case for you. If you have experienced sort of blessings of Jupiter, maybe higher tax return, maybe a chance to travel without, paying a lot. So how has it been? Please share. As a Libra rising, I'm very curious. So the new moon, new beginnings, maybe a big project, maybe a new exercise routine, maybe a yoga practice, maybe a spiritual practice, maybe a doctor's appointment. So some kind of commitment to bettering your life. And the sextile to Jupiter in the 8th is quite lovely because there might be financial support, there might be rewards, or rewards you're using to commit to something, or rewards for the hard work that you have already done. Of course, new moon is new beginnings, so it's likely that you're using some money to initiate new things. On March 9th, Mercury enters your 7th house, and this is a big deal because Mercury will enter shadow on March 18th and then go retrograde on April 1st, and it will stay in your 7th house all the way until May 15th. So this is suggestive of a lot of focus on your relationship house. And then the sun goes in on March 19th, stays for a month. There's going to be a solar eclipse simultaneously with Mercury retrograde in your 7th house. So all eyes are on your partner and your partnerships and your business. Any close one-on-one relationships are under review. There's more action there. There's more connecting, partnering up, speaking with people, right? Signing contracts, moving relationship forward. But then do not rush, because as Mercury goes retrograde in April and we get that eclipse, there is a need to review, revisit, rewrite, right? Something needs to be readjusted in your relationship. If you're single, you may be on the verge of hearing from your exes coming back into your life, and the pull might be very strong to take them back, but I know you know better. I mean, I'm not going to judge. I'm a Virgo who doesn't judge in that regard, because a lot of times you need to experience things again in order to know whether it's meant to be or not meant to be. A lot of times that's how it works. But a lot of focus on relationships, and I think in March things seem to be going forward and maybe moving forward, but then in April you're very much needing to revisit, rethink, redo. Some of the fights that you thought you were done with will be coming back most likely, and you will need to talk about them. And the questions you may be asking right now are connected to pleasure, are connected to competition, to parenthood, and to kind of goals and values together, and the fears you might be having because there is a sextile to Pluto in the 5th house from Mercury and from the sun. So, big questions you might be having are connected to being a parent, handling matters connected to your children, even kind of sexual questions can be coming up right now. And this is a big month for you, not gonna lie. On March 25th, there's also a lunar eclipse in Libra in your 1st house. So what has been happening in your life in October? Please tell me down below. But in mid-October, we had a solar eclipse in Libra, which could have shaken you up, made you question your origin story. A lot of your relationship and personal tendencies could have been brought up. I don't know if you have found answers. I don't know if I have found them myself, but there could have been a lot of sort of shakeups and a lot of transformations, right? A lot of big questions. So the eclipse here to me is suggesting that those questions are coming back up, and there is a need to cleanse, to release, to rid yourself of old habits. Personally, even though we're still ways away from this eclipse, I have been asking a lot of important questions. I have been asking questions connected to, happiness and satisfaction in life, and what those are, and how much of it is a choice and how much of it is external and internal. And I firmly believe that happiness is a choice, and a lot of times we choose to feed habits that aren't making us happy, right? Just because they're comfortable. So I feel like lunar eclipse, south node eclipse in your 1st house is a big deal, and it is suggestive of a part of you dying and being reborn. The ruler is Venus in the 6th house. She's exalted, so this is good news. And to me, once again, she's suggesting changes in the house of health, in the house of exercise, in the house of work you do for a living. So the changes you may be experiencing there are connected to no longer feeling satisfied with your work routines or with your health routines, wanting to bring more spirituality, bring more alignment into your life. So please let me know how this resonates. How do you think this will manifest for you? What was October like? As a Libra rising myself, I'm always like, tell me, what have you learned? Let's all learn together. And if you'd like to know what the lunar eclipse in Libra and the solar eclipse in Aries have in store for you, book a reading with me at anastasiadoesastrology.com. We can pick things apart and talk about it. You can also, on my website, purchase a horoscope subscription to receive monthly horoscopes, detailed, specific, unique to you, emailed to you at the start of every month, where I guide you, offer advice, and help you maximize the positive transits and avoid the more challenging ones. Definitely check that out. Next, we have the beautiful Scorpio rising. In February, you were quite busy brainstorming ideas, maybe building websites, exploring different skills, and talking to neighbors and siblings with Mars and Venus in your third house. There could have been opportunities to improve your living situation, spend time with family, maybe even face some shadows in family, address some kind of challenging dynamics, become more clear about the underbelly of your family and your origin story, right? With all the planets in Aquarius, making conjunctions to Pluto in Aquarius, you are on the precipice of this big shift in your family life. And later in the month, when the Sun and Mercury entered Pisces, you could have felt a stronger pull towards dating, towards sort of, creating, being playful, spending time with kids, and things like that. In March, there's still, until about March 22nd, there's still a lot of focus on your house of home and family. The focus will continue because Pluto is here for 20 years. But as Venus leaves on March 11th and Mars leaves on March 22nd, you will potentially experience a bit of a rest, a bit of like a reprieve there, or at least things will not feel as acute. The simmering Plutonian tectonic shifts will continue. But I think so early in the month, with Venus being here, you may be solving some kind of family questions. You may be making improvements to your home, completing a home renovation project, spending more time with family members doing DIY projects, especially between March 11th and 22nd. When Venus is out, Mars still here, there's like a pull to be active in the family. March 3rd and March 9th can bring some kind of changes and a need to be flexible and adaptable when it comes to home, family, and living situation due to breakthroughs and breakdowns in the house of relationships and partnerships. So 2 examples, negative, positive, right? The negative could be you break up, right? You are in a relationship, you live together, but you end that relationship, or your partner ends that relationship, and you need to move in with your parents. Or maybe your partner gets a job somewhere like in Paris, and now you're moving because it's a shakeup, but it's a positive change maybe. Or even a chance to move in together with your significant other could need some adjustment and transformation. Could be a transformation that's a positive one. There's a lot of action in your house of romance, pleasure, and children with all the planets transiting Pisces. The Sun is here, Mercury, Venus, and Mars are all at some point in the month. Venus is in her joy in the 5th house, so between March 11th and April 5th, you have this beautiful, romantic, charming energy, which is great for dating, great for partnering up, great for pregnancy. You're getting a new moon here on March 10th, which is sextiling Jupiter in the 7th. It's Pisces, it's water, it's moist, it's fertile. So for those of you interested in parenthood, this is the time. For those of you interested in starting projects, taking projects into reality, right? Giving them physical form, this is the time. It's not always the baby that is getting born, but something that is maybe has only been in your head until now, getting a chance to be presented to the world. And even more so in September, we're going to have a lunar eclipse here. So the seeds you're planting will come full circle on September 17th, 2 weeks before, 2 weeks after, as we get an eclipse here. So big kind of developments in terms of love, new relationships, in terms of parenthood, babies, creativity, creative babies, all of that is coming your way. And the new moon is sextiling Jupiter in the 7th. So you're not doing this alone, right? Jupiter in the 7th is suggestive of good people in your life. Even if it's a business partner, you have the support, you have the guidance and connections that are directing you, shining light, like at the airport for the plane in the night. Mercury enters your 6th house, enters Aries on March 9th, will stay here all the way until May 15th. So it's a big deal. It's a long transit. The Sun enters Aries on March 19th, stays for a month. So from about March 9th, right, a lot of your focus starts to go to work, your health and service to other, maybe even your pets. You're starting to sort of handle things connected to the pets. You're rethinking your habits, you're decluttering, you're maybe spending more time working on, professional projects, maybe doing kind of home renovations still, because Mercury and the Sun will sextile Pluto in the 4th house. If we connect the house of health, work, and service with the house of home, maybe you're building a home gym, or you're working from home, or you're like renovating part of your home. Mercury will go retrograde in April. So to me, that's suggesting of needing to redo some of the work that you're doing right now, needing to maybe deal with some kind of work situations that demand more attention, and like potentially release some bad habits, declutter, rewrite some of the documents, talk to some of your colleagues, maybe somebody makes a mistake. So just be ready that some of the work especially from March 18th onwards until April 1st, may need to be redone because Mercury is in its shadow from March 18th. And we have a lunar eclipse in Libra, your 12th house, on March 25th. This is a completion of a chapter started in your 12th house in October. So in October, we had a solar eclipse in Libra, which could have brought up a lot of hidden things, self-defeating tendencies, maybe unhealthy relationship habits, maybe some situations in which you're not being direct, in which you're choosing to either hide your true feelings or say things that you think the other person wants to hear. So if you take a look back at October and let me know what was happening in your life, do you feel like any of it is coming back up? The ruler is Venus in the 5th house, so the questions you're addressing very much feel connected to love, connected to parenthood, connected to pleasure. And there's a need there to be honest. There's a need there to lean into spirituality. There's a need there to heal on some level. So lunar eclipse could be an invitation for you to find a spiritual practice, to talk to your therapist, to start therapy, and to address any fears you have, or even like releasing old relationships, right? Like kind of things that impacted you from the past, because as a Scorpio, you like holding on to things sometimes, right? So maybe there is an invitation there to not let your present relationship, don't let it be impacted by the old relationships. And if you'd like to know more about eclipses, about this one and the one coming up in April, you can book a reading with me at anastasiadoesastrology.com. On my website, you can also pick up a horoscope subscription, which means I will take a look at your chart, send you a detailed written down horoscope with important dates, helping you maximize the positive transits and avoid the more challenging ones. Now, if you are a lovely Sagittarius rising in February, you could have handled a lot of financial matters, maybe paid off debts, maybe made more investments, made more, spent more, as Venus and Mars traveled through your 2nd house. There could have been more action, more ideas, more intense conversations, and a need to examine how you communicate and whether you follow your passions, maybe even a desire to find passions, as we had an Aquarius stellium and planets conjoining Pluto. if you had any intense conversations, if you had some drama with your siblings or neighbors. Some of this will continue in March as we have Venus and Mars still in your third house. So Venus is here until March 11th. She can offer some opportunities to soften things and maybe, problem solve and negotiate and make amends. Mars is here until March 22nd. For a while, between 11th and 22nd, Mars will be here, which is without Venus, which is actually a pretty good time to take business action, to explore new hobbies, to go out in your neighborhood, connect with your siblings, start a business, kind of find new connections. You may feel quite daring and excited and very social. March 3rd and March 9th, Venus and Mars in your third house will square Uranus in the sixth house, which can lead to some changes in your schedule, communication, business, everyday life, connected to breakdowns and breakthroughs connected to health, work, service, and even pets. So an example might be quitting your job, right? And then you have more time to follow your business. You can no longer try to escape it, right? An example might be getting some kind of opportunity to study health or nutrition, and so your work changes perhaps. So there is a need to be adaptable here, I think, and definitely follow through on the ideas. And February would have given you a lot of insights on what these things could be about. In February, you also potentially had some time to spend with family. You maybe looked into buying real estate or thought about improving your living situation, even if that just means getting your windows cleaned for spring cleaning, as the Sun and Mercury entered Pisces, your fourth house. In March, this continues, right? There is even more action in your fourth house. So the Sun is here, Mercury is here early in the month. Venus enters on March 11th, and so does Mars on March 22nd. And I think at first, you are very much kind of thinking about what to do to improve your home, or what to do to feel more at ease and more comfortable in your home, or even thinking how to deal with some kind of family dynamics. And then Venus can offer a chance to make it easier, and then Mars will be all about, from March 22nd, will be all about like taking action, making things happen. There's also a new moon here on March 10th, which suggests new beginnings that involve moving, that involve connecting with family, that involve making changes to the home. That can also be quite, I think, spiritual, not necessarily super, visible and tangible, where you're breaking a wall down and painting your walls or doing something big. But fourth house also represents comfort and security and some kind of beliefs and philosophies that make you feel supported. The new moon is aspecting Jupiter in the sixth house. So I feel like there is some kind of flowing, happy connection between your comfort, security, home, and living situation and your work life, right? So maybe your work is flexible right now. There might be a lot of work because Jupiter tends to expand things, but maybe there's also some kind of lucky, happy energy and a chance to work from home. So maybe the new beginnings represent working from home. Sorry, I need some water. Maybe there is also freedom at work and perhaps even promotion that lets you make changes to your living situation, to make the improvements you need to move. Or you are also kind of feeling comfortable and at ease with the work that you're doing, which then in turn allows you to feel like happier and more secure. On March 9th, Mercury enters Aries, your fifth house, and so does the Sun on March 19th. Mercury will go retrograde here in April. So Mercury stays in Aries all the way until May 15th. And initially, because in March we have a lot of forward momentum, right? All planets are moving direct. This could be an invitation to take action, to go on more dates, to play trivia games with your partner, to be sort of playful but competitive with them, to talk about children, to spend time with children, to kind of explore your fantasies and desires in the bedroom. But later, because Mercury goes retrograde, you may need to have some important conversations and maybe revisit some of the creative projects you've explored or some of the action you've taken with children and with regards to love. We'll talk about that more in April, but just know that you may be kind of looking to reignite spark in your relationship and maybe addressing some kind of old relationships if exes are coming back into your life, and even needing to find inspiration in terms of what's pleasurable, what brings you fulfillment. There is going to be a happy connection between Mercury and the Sun in the 5th and Pluto in the 3rd. So I feel like you can be having really interesting conversations with your partner, getting to know them. There could be turning pleasurable activities into a business, finding new hobbies, redefining pleasure. All of that will be interesting to see, especially because we're going to have an eclipse here, which is very much about, you know, having babies, starting new projects, starting new relationships. On March 25th, we get the biggest event of the month, and that is the lunar eclipse in Libra, your 11th house. Take a look back at the solar eclipse in Libra in October 2023. That could have brought new themes, introduced friendship dynamics, maybe introduced new dreams into your life, and maybe encouraged you to rethink who you call a friend and who you call an ally. So this eclipse will bring focus again to your friendships networks, your hopes and dreams, and will encourage you to complete some, release some, sort of be very clear about who you call a friend. So maybe releasing some friendships is a possibility. The ruler is Venus in your 4th house. So I wonder if, you know, if some changes that are happening to your friendships, hopes, and dreams are connected to you relocating maybe, or to you moving away from your friends, traveling. So as you pursue new beginnings and even look for new sort of pleasures in life, there might be an opportunity to redefine who your friends are and maybe find people who are more aligned, right? And of course, the lunar eclipse here could also be about reconnecting with friends maybe, or finding new interests that tie you together. The dreams that you have once held close can also feel no longer shiny and glittery and fulfilling. So I think as you examine what is authentic, what is truthful, what is soulful and spiritual, your friendships, your connections, and your pursuits will transform. And please let me know, how was solar eclipse in Libra? Have you noticed any of those themes coming up back in October 2023? And if you'd like to know what this eclipse, as well as eclipse in April, has in store for you, book a reading with me at anastasiadoesastrology.com. On my website, you can also pick up a horoscope subscription and get monthly horoscopes specific to you, tailored to your chart, emailed to you at the start of every month. They include the important dates, and I offer advice and help guide you through more difficult times and maximize the more positive times. So definitely check that out. Next, we have the serious, hardworking, and beautiful, never-aging Capricorn rising. In February, you were focusing on your look, maybe changing your look, taking personal action with Venus and Mars in your 1st house. There could have been some important financial matters, maybe a need to be more thoughtful with your resources, maybe even some kind of realization of what's no longer important to you. Maybe power struggles around resources, as we had a stellium in Aquarius and Mercury, Mars, and Venus one by one conjoining Pluto in your 2nd house. In March, Venus and Mars are still here until about March 22nd. So you're still kind of figuring out your finances. It's a good time to talk to a financial advisor, especially until March 11th when Venus is here. And it's a good time to research investments. You may notice yourself making more money, spending more money, investing into gifts for people, right? Maybe just being more proactive when it comes to your resources and when it comes to making money competitively. There could also be just like busier time professionally, so make sure you're not overloading yourself. March 3rd and March 9th, we have Venus and Mars in the 2nd house squaring Uranus in the 5th, which could suggest changes and a need to be adaptable when it comes to finances and resources as a result of breakdowns and breakthroughs related to romance, pleasure, and children. So very kind of easy example comes to mind. You get pregnant. If you're a male, identify as a male, your partner gets pregnant, right? And now you need to move to a bigger home. So you need to figure out how to get enough money for that. Or, you had a plan to go on a trip, but your partner tells you they cannot. And so you need to figure out whether to spend this money or invest this money, whether to go alone or to wait for your partner. So some kind of need to be more flexible and be more adaptable in response to your changes in the sector of creativity, romance, pleasure, children. Even creative projects, right? Like you may sell your screenplay, but it's less money. And do you take the offer? Do you not take the offer? Those questions can be coming up. In February, later in the month, we also had Sun entering Pisces. Mercury was in Pisces. This is your third house. So you could have experienced a need to learn new things. Maybe your schedule sped up, you started communicating more, maybe you became more involved with siblings, explored new ideas, taken more exams. Third house is just like busy, busy, busy. So, and your third house is still very active in March. Basically, the entire month, Saturn is here. We have Mercury, the Sun, Venus, and Mars all passing through your third house. Venus, especially between March 11th and April 5th, is very inspirational, right? It's really beautiful. She's exalted in Pisces, so you may feel more of a need to share stories, to weave beautiful tales together, to write, to hang out with siblings, to talk about the past, sort of, kind of connect with people. There's a new moon in Pisces on March 10th in a sextile to Jupiter in your fifth house. It's connecting the third house of communication, skills, hobbies, business with your house of pleasure and romance and children. So finding pleasure in being a parent is one example, but also connecting your house of skills and gifts and talents and action with the house of pleasure. So I think being able to take something that you really enjoy and turn that into the source of income is very likely here, also because fifth house represents love and third house represents siblings and neighbors. Maybe you're starting to date a neighbor, or you're dating someone you met through your sibling, like your brother's best friend or something like that is a possibility here. So this is quite nice, and I would definitely recommend you try to maximize it by like writing if you are a writer, or starting a business, or asking people in your neighborhood if they can offer you some advice. Even, let's say, putting flyers in a local bakery could be a great opportunity right now. On March 9th, Mercury enters Aries, stays here until May 15th because it goes retrograde in April. And the Sun enters Aries on March 19th, stays here for a month. So this brings attention to your house of home, family, and living situation. And it is likely that changes are coming in that sector of your life. I already know 2 Capricorn risings. One has just bought an apartment, one just put an offer on a house. So North Node is not just chilling in your 4th house. North Node is bringing a lot of focus to your living situation. And so Mercury being here and the Sun suggests that you are really sort of focused on improving your living situation, on connecting with family, maybe even healing, addressing any sort of childhood karma. And the retrograde of Mercury coming up in April, to me, suggests that maybe you will be moving, but you may be moving back to a place you once lived in, or some of your sort of forward momentum with buying a property may potentially get delayed because there is some documentation you need to gather. Just be flexible. Do not worry about it. Like Mercury retrograde is sort of like a red light. Doesn't mean you're going backwards, but it does mean you're sort of standing in place and needing to rethink things. There is, the entire time, there's a harmonious connection between Mercury and the Sun in your 4th house and Pluto and Aquarius in your 2nd house. So I think there is financially a good karma suggestion that you are making positive investment, or your finances, your sort of focus, newfound focus on the financial matters with Pluto entering your 2nd house is quite supportive. So you can benefit at this time from making real estate investments, from even getting financial support from family. Anything like that would be good right now. And then on March 25th, we have a lunar eclipse in Libra, your 10th house. So how interesting, right? Like right after we have all this action, we have more action coming up in your house of home, family, and living situation. The lunar eclipse in Libra is suggesting that your professional life is changing. And lunar eclipse brings completion a lot of times. So it brings a change. It's a south node eclipse, which is all about cleansing, release, letting go. So you may be realizing that as you're moving, you need to quit your job and find another one. You may be realizing that your comfort and your joy is not about killing yourself at work, but instead about having a healthy work-life balance. The ruler is Venus in the 3rd house. So Venus in the 3rd house, like I said, could be drawing your attention to writing, drawing your attention to your passions, to your business. So the transformation in the sector of career could be very much connected to discovery of new interests, to desire to go with business full-time, even a desire to change your schedule to be more kind of conducive and helpful and supportive of resting, and choosing professional pursuits that are more aligned with you versus just doing work because you want to have enough money, right? Which is a fair concern, but do not let that hold you back from doing things that are maybe more fun. And if you'd like to know what this eclipse and the eclipse in April has in store for you, book a reading with me at anastasiadoesastrology.com to talk more. On my website, you can also pick up a horoscope subscription, a written monthly email sent to you. It also includes weekly emails where I break down the energy of the week ahead for the collective. But the biggest part of that horoscope subscription is either written or in-person horoscope if you choose the VIP option, where I look at your chart and I describe what's coming up, give you advice, and help you maximize the month to come. If you are a lovely Aquarius rising, in February, you may have been getting away, traveling and resting with Venus and Mars in your 12th house. The stellium in Aquarius and Mercury, Mars, and Venus conjoining Pluto could have brought up some tensions and some fears and some resistance you have and encouraged you to transform. So, this would have introduced the beginnings of a new you, maybe a new exercise routine, maybe a new look where you're feeling more drawn to get tattoos or change your hair, whatever it might be. And in March, until March 11th, Venus is still in your 1st house. So it's a good time to take, charge and do beauty procedures, to cut your hair, color your hair, whatever you might want to do. And then Mars is also here until March 22nd. So Mars is blessing you with more energy, more initiative, more sort of willingness to take action. And but on March 3rd and March 9th, there is a square between Venus and Mars in the 1st house and Uranus in your 4th house, which can suggest changes and a need to be more adaptable that are inspired by breakdowns and breakthroughs in your sector of home, family, and living situation. So maybe a pipe bursts and you need to go and live with your family, or you need to go and live in a hotel, or you just need to figure out where to spend the night really quickly. Or maybe you realize that you've been traveling and you really like this place that you're traveling through and you decide to stay there, right? Or you get a chance, your partner invites you to move in together and you've only been together 3 months, but you say, why not? So some kind of like sudden, exciting breakthrough, breakdown in the house of home, family, and living situation may affect your view of yourself. And this could also be, to be honest, this could also be the time when you realize something about the past, or you hear something about your family and the way you see yourself is changing. I'm just gonna take a sip of my water. So another thing that started happening in February is the Sun entered Pisces, your 2nd house, on February 19th, which could have brought focus to your money and values. Maybe you started looking into paying taxes. Maybe you started brainstorming new financial ideas, kind of had to have some conversations about money and resources. And so that action continues in March, as Pisces is active all months. We have planets just passing through. Mercury leaves first, then the Sun, Venus enters on March 11th, Mars enters on March 22nd. So there's a lot of action in your second house. And so you can expect to be busier, to have more opportunities to make money, to have more opportunities to spend money. There's a new moon here on March 10th, suggesting new beginnings, a new job, a new rate, a new source of interest, right? Like second house is also values. It's things that you find enjoyable. So I can see this as also kind of new beginnings, new interests, new passions coming into your life. The new moon sextiles Jupiter in the 4th house. So, you know, there can also be some kind of support from the family, financial support from the family, or money may be changing because you're moving to a brand new place. You're maybe starting to value your home a little bit more, and you're starting to make deep realizations about what you are willing to deal with and what you don't want to deal with in terms of roommates and neighbors. Maybe receiving gains from real estate, you know, if you're someone in real estate business. So kind of exciting opportunities for change here are likely. And then Mercury enters Aries on March 9th. We'll stay here for 2 months because it goes retrograde in April. This is your 3rd house. The Sun goes into your 3rd house on March 19th, stays for a month. So this is likely to speed up your mind. You may experience more ideas, more sort of even more exciting conversations. 3rd house represents your community, your neighbors, your siblings. So having kind of important conversations, important realizations, as well as a need to redo something, to talk about something that hasn't been said, to address something that's lurking in the shadows, right? To have, like to kind of even reconsider how you communicate and how you express frustrations, because Aries can be very direct. But when Mercury goes retrograde in April, you may need to take a step back and reconsider, right? Like, do you have an annoying roommate, but you tend to either get angry with them or not say anything? So like maybe there is an invitation there to learn how to communicate differently, how to communicate with zeal and passion, but without like hurting other people. You may also be experiencing a lot of new ideas. Maybe you're writing something, maybe you're taking on communication projects, starting a business, and then when Mercury goes retrograde in April, there will be an invitation to redo, rewrite, even retake some exams. So try to be flexible here. I do like that Mercury in the 3rd and the Sun in the 3rd are sextiling Pluto and Aquarius in your 1st house. So I think your words have power, and you're maybe even learning how to speak in a very powerful way, because Pluto will be in your 3rd house in your 1st house for 20 years. So I think overall you are on the path of being more sort of the best version of yourself, being stronger, being more self-reliant. So I think these transits through the 3rd connecting to your 1st is very much saying, well, like, how can you use your words to be the best version of yourself? How can you use your knowledge to be the best version of yourself? How can you transform things in your mundane everyday life to make it easier to deal with frustrations, right? If you had to set an example to the young you, to you as a child, what would you do? And then on March 25th, we have a lunar eclipse in Libra in your 9th house. This is completion of a chapter started in October when we had a solar eclipse in Libra. Please let me know, how was that for you? And it brings attention to your sector of education, travel, writing, publishing. And the ruler is Venus in your 2nd house. So the eclipse the solar eclipse we had in your 9th house in October could have brought your attention to travel, to some kind of philosophical system. It could have brought your attention to your old beliefs and things that feel outdated, to your relationship dynamics, to education matters, right? And so the lunar eclipse will be all about completing the things that came up at that time. Like if you thought about traveling, maybe this is the time you go on a trip. If you thought about moving, maybe now you're actually moving, or you have moved and you're starting to settle. Maybe you're starting to feel like what you have studied doesn't feel that aligned with you, and now you want to either change majors or take a break and sort of step away from gathering knowledge and instead start kind of taking action. So definitely look back at October and let me know what that was about for you. And if you'd like to know what this energy activates in your chart, how it works with other planets, and how the eclipse in April will affect you, book a reading with me at anastasiadoesastrology.com. You can also find a horoscope subscription on my website and get monthly horoscopes tailored specifically to you, emailed to you at the start of every month. They're very detailed and they include positive dates as well as challenging dates and advice for dealing with those. Last but not least, the beautiful, magical Pisces risings. In February, you were busy networking, especially maybe earlier in the month when Venus and Mars were in your 11th house. You may have felt a need to retreat and take a step back and to be more thoughtful and introspective, as we had this stellium in Aquarius, right, in your 12th house. Mercury, Mars, and Venus all conjoined Pluto in your 12th house between the 5th and the 6th of February, 13th, 14th, 16th, 17th, and they could have highlighted self-defeating tendencies or sort of blind spot, mental health issues that you need to address. There could have been power struggles that came up in your relationships and a lot of sort of inner work. And that continues until March 22nd, while Venus and Mars are in your 12th house. And so you're sort of continuing to examine how you are maybe being self-destructive. If things are difficult, are you helping? Are you making things better? Or are you thinking negative thoughts? Are you making things harder on yourself? And what can you do to improve them? There could also be an opportunity to examine your latent talents and your interests that you're not acknowledging within yourself and bring them forward, right? Venus, very much, both Venus and Mars deal with relationships. So you can also be taking a closer look at, your toxic traits, maybe a tendency to go for people that are unavailable or go for people that from the start are not healthy. So like a lot of quiet, introspective time here. March 3rd and March 9th can be especially important as Venus and Mars in your 12th square Uranus in the 3rd. So this could be the time you have some kind of really important conversation with a sibling or a neighbor. Maybe you have like an unusual encounter in your neighborhood and that leads to breakthrough in your thinking. There could also be like new passions, new interests, new hobbies that impact your spiritual life, because Pluto being in your 12th house, yes, there's definitely inner work that you'll be doing, and it's not always going to be easy because Pluto is not the easiest planet, but it's also, I think, about finding your inner power. It's about becoming your biggest ally. It's also about becoming a healer and connecting with your gifts and talents and sort of feeling more comfortable expressing them. At the same time, the sun entered Pisces on February 19th, perhaps encouraging you to reinvent yourself, encouraging you to lead, to become more proactive. Venus joins the sun on March 11th and will be here until April 5th. This is you at your most charming, you at your most attractive, you at your kind of highest manifestation powers. Venus is exalted in Pisces, so you get this almost a full month of Venus blessing you with charm and beauty and attractions, so use that energy wisely. Mars also joins Pisces on March 22nd, will stay here until April 30th. And this is good because sometimes Mars being in the 12th house, so from February 13th until March 22nd, could have messed with your sleep, could have, brought a lot like outside stresses, tendency to fight yourself, to kind of sabotage yourself. So Mars entering Pisces on the 22nd of March is likely to give you more energy and to make it easier to take action, even though you're still going to be driven by your moods, but it's sort of you're coming out of, especially on March 22nd, this will be the last planet to leave your 12th house, so you'll be coming out of the hiding and ready to speak and assert yourself. There's a new moon also in your first house on March 10th. It sextiles Jupiter in the third house. So you are being ready to express the new you. You are ready to reinvent yourself, to explore new passions, new projects, new ideas, right? Changes to your look connected to maybe starting a new job and needing to look a certain way. Changes to your identity connected to taking on a writing project, deciding to study something, maybe meeting people and getting more involved with your community, starting a blog, starting a business. There's kind of like exciting possibilities. Even your schedule changing, making changes to your schedule that positively affect your health is likely here. Mercury enters Aries, your second house of money and values, on March 9th, and so does the Sun on March 19th for a month. Mercury will stay here for 2 months, and it will go retrograde in April. So initially, there is a lot of action. You feel like maybe your finances are moving forward, you have more ideas, you're using your mind. Your mind can feel sharper, more sort of, clear, and it's easier to use it to make money. But then be careful, because the retrograde between April 1st and 25th can be the time when you need to redo some of the stuff. You made some money, but now you need to spend this money. So I would avoid making sort of rash financial decisions and trying to be flexible, because chances are some of the things will need to be redone. There's also both Mercury and the Sun aspect Pluto in your 12th house. So once again, I feel like you may be investing in your mental health. You may be investing into exploring your passions, your gifts. You may be healing more and kind of working on your deep passions, things that need to be addressed as well. And on March 25th, the biggest event of March is the lunar eclipse in Libra. And this is your 8th house. So we are completing the chapter started in mid-October 2023 when we had the solar eclipse in Libra. What was that like? What was happening in your house of debts, loans, taxes? Because the things that, or even relationships with other people, but let's talk about money first. So if in October you have been realizing that you need to take better care of your resources, maybe you started working on paying off a debt, the lunar eclipse could be the time you complete that. It could also be the time you get some kind of governmental support, or you get a bonus, you get a reward. It could also be about healing, right? If you have, because 8th house is also about dynamics you have with other people. It's about spoken and unspoken agreements. It's about dependencies. It's about how much other people rely on you, how much you rely on other people. So something in this sector of your life feels outdated. Some relationships might feel outdated and are in need of new agreements. So the lunar eclipse in Libra will definitely bring attention to relationships and unhealthy patterns, and will encourage you to let go of karmic debts and actual debts so that you have more freedom to find financial and spiritual abundance. And let me know how this resonates. If you'd like to know what the eclipse in Libra and the upcoming eclipse in Aries in April has in store for you, book a reading with me at anastasiadoesastrology.com. On my website, you can also pick up a horoscope subscription, it includes weekly emails that describe the weather, the astrology coming up, as well as monthly horoscopes. I don't know. Pisces is the last sign, so by Pisces, my brain is starting to be a little wobbly. So yeah, pick up the horoscope subscription so you can get monthly horoscopes emailed to you at the start of every month. They are unique to you. They describe everything that's going on in your chart, versus these horoscopes tend to be more general. They are for 12 rising signs. And the monthly subscription can be very beneficial for maximizing the positive transits and even knowing when they're coming your way. So take advantage of that. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting me, for watching my videos, for commenting. If you haven't subscribed, please do so right now, and I'll talk to you soon.